Hello and welcome to a new series of The Pulse. The latest Amnesty International report on Hong Kong's protests that have been going on for more than 100 days lays out a disturbing catalogue of arbitrary arrests, brutal beatings and torture in police detention. Although the protests have been underway for more than 3 months, the Chief Executive, Carrie Lam, and her administration appear to be reluctant to address the issues that have caused the turmoil or to resolve the dangerous chasm that has emerged concerning the way the police have handled the protests. There's been escalating violence from both sides with live coverage on television and social media. And as the protests have intensified, so has the online propaganda mill. Rumour, disinformation and questionable news have spread like wildfire on social media platforms, further polarising opinion.
Maybe you like British to go back to Hong Kong, yeah? How sad. Instead of being grateful to China.
我係一個90後，喺6月9號同12號我都有去示威遊行，見到好多年青人受到暴力嘅對待。點解佢哋嘅父母唔在場呢？年青人，你嘅父母根本冇愛過你。
This video was published on Facebook 9 days after the June 12th clashes at Admiralty. It was published on an account under the name Louis Yun that no longer exists. Many online media saw this video and its Cultural Revolution-like narrative aimed at creating tensions between generations as the first salvo of pro-Beijing propaganda directed at the anti-extradition bill movement. Associate Professor Fu Qinghua of the Journalism and Media Studies Center at Hong Kong University has long been monitoring online censorship and the activities on mainland social media platforms such as Weibo. Since the anti-extradition bill movement began, he's seen that state-backed accounts on Weibo have been promoting the narrative that the movement is advocating Hong Kong independence. There's little mention on mainland social media of the demands of the protesters, which include withdrawal of the bill and the setting up of an independent inquiry into excessive use of violence by police.
咁我發現咗咧，原來咧喺社交媒體裏邊咧講有關港獨嘅次數咧係遠遠高過講嗰個訴求嗰個次數。所謂 narrative 咧，去講港獨呢樣嘢，去包裝成件事咧，係多過好多。咁所以其實你而家唔難發現咗咧，好快咧佢哋會下個判斷咧，就係所有示威者或者係支持呢個運動嘅人咧，都係搞港獨㗎。而家我哋睇到有好多嘅睇嚟都係完全假嘅消息咧，係來自官媒啊，例如《人民日報》啊，背後係有動機地咧，係要擾亂嗰個公眾輿論。亦都可能唔單止係想擾亂個公眾，而係想令到個輿論咧焦點係轉咗去某一啲地方嗰度。最近我哋都睇到咧，Facebook 同 Twitter 同埋 YouTube 咧亦都公布咗咧，有好多即係有啲中國政府控制嘅一啲社交媒體嘅戶口咧，喺海外咧其他嘅社交媒體咧係發放好多一啲咧針對香港或者針對其他一啲對中國政府不利嘅信息嘅一啲戶口，咁呢啲嘢其實都係不止係影響緊香港，亦都係影響緊成個國際嘅社會。
On 19th of August, Facebook and Twitter both announced they'd removed many accounts, groups and pages orchestrated by the People's Republic of China and directed at Hong Kong. Twitter says it has closed down 936 accounts which were state-backed. All these accounts, the company said, violated its policies on platform manipulation. including spreading spam, running coordinated activities, and creating fake accounts to undermine the legitimacy and political position of the anti-extradition bill movement. Facebook has shut down 7 pages, 3 groups, and 5 accounts. Commentators on social media say that although it's good to see giant tech companies to take action tackling the circulation of false information, online platform users should still not rely on them being able to check posts for accuracy.
Twitter said they will stop boosting the posts or tweets from state-owned media from China. Or if you are state-owned media from any country, you could still boost your post through Facebook. And even the YouTube is now labeling all the videos coming from state-owned media from the mainland China. So they're trying to sort of signal the audience what sort of information they're consuming. So in other words, they are already taking some responsibility. Whether it's enough or not is another story. What I worry about is the false news. Confirmation bias is often self-serving most of the time. Whatever is not in line with your viewpoint is false or something that you should attack.
The anti-extradition bill protests have been underway since June. Tensions between police and protesters have escalated, not only in the street, but also on social media. Over the past 3 months, news that may be based on rumor or deliberately fake has been circulated widely on social media platforms. Some is unfavorable to the police, some is unfavorable to the protesters.
The parents of her friends want to take the corpse of her friend from the Mongkok police station, but all in vain.
我哋留意到網上流傳當晚有人被人打死，直至今日為止，我哋冇收到任何與8月31日有關失蹤人口嘅報告。
I think we have confirmed that this is a true case. So I'm so sad for these young girls who have been misled into offering free sex. There is evidence. That is the child, the daughter of a friend's friend. That's second-hand knowledge, but it's direct. It's real, okay?
佢話：我哋女仔就應該用身體去安慰佢哋。我飲到冇晒意識，就俾佢拉上床。次次都係唔同嘅人，有時一晚試過連續3個人。
Many users of social media don't check whether news is fake or not before sharing it with their contacts. Some pages do claim that the information they share is fact-checked. Others say that some information cannot be fact-checked for privacy reasons. A handful of users calling themselves Khao Yin Media have been fact-checking some of the news being circulated. They say they fact-check information regardless of its political stance, but they wish to remain anonymous. They answered the post in text.
Welcome back. With me is Rachel Blu, fact-check editor of Agence France Presse, and Chris Yeung, chairperson of the Hong Kong Journalists Association. Rachel Blu, great title. What is it that you're actually doing, and why do you feel the need to do that?
So we're focusing on disinformation in Asia. We have fact-checkers across the region, and we launched this project in response to a wave of disinformation that we saw on social media. This is an ongoing problem in the world today, and we focus on user-generated content, and I mean photos and videos that people put on social media, and we try to find ways of debunking falsehoods that people are spreading either maliciously or inadvertently.
And is this because there's been more and more of this, or you're just catching up with what's going on anyway?
There's been a growth across the world, and Asia is seeing a real problem with this. And when we have significant events such as the protests in Hong Kong, we definitely see a rise in this kind of misinformation.
We've had this big news event recently in Hong Kong, which was the derailment in the East Rail near the Hung Hom station. Can you take us through how that emerged on social media, well, on parts of social media?
Yeah, so that event actually got traction very quickly, and people were misrepresenting it in the very early hours of the event, suggesting that this photo that we have here of protesters on a rail line in Hong Kong was evidence that they somehow caused the derailment. So what we did was we did the reverse image search, and
that means you're looking at an older image of the same people, but in a different location, presumably.
Yeah, we tried to find the same image, but in an older web post. So we do the search, and what we found was that actually this is a photo taken by a journalist from HKO1, and we found the result here. And you can actually see this is part of a slideshow that HKO1 produced, and it shows protesters on a line on the West Rail line, far, far away from where the event happened. So from that, we can be confident that it wasn't the cause of the derailment. Just this week, actually, we found this video, which I can show you here, which was suggesting that Pacific Place was on fire as a result of protest action. And actually this video is from Malaysia. And what we did was we took a screenshot of the video and we ran that through a reverse image search in the same way that we do for photos. And we found this Channel News Asia report about recent fire in Malaysia in Johor Bahru. And so this event in Malaysia was very quickly misrepresented in Hong Kong.
That's very interesting. Chris Yeung, I mean, there have been suggestions that a lot of this false news have actually been generated by Chinese state organizations. Do you have any reason to believe that that is credible?
Well, we hope that someone will do also the fact check on this claim because to be honest, I think now it's still difficult to say get an idea, quantify. I mean, for instance, the problem of say fake news, fabrications, half-truths, rumors, all these things. I hope that the experts, academic, will come up with some say detailed statistical say and analyze. But I'm quite sure that during the ongoing protests, I think that there's growing concern about all this disinformation, misinformation, and fake news. And some may be pure propaganda, but very often now the lines are so blurred. And I think I would say one fundamental reason behind it now is that there is an erosion of trust in the society. People just don't trust anything. A lot of things. The government, the police, the media, and the institutions. So that provides a lot of room and soil for, I think, all this disinformation.
I think as journalists, the fact of the matter is people believe what they want to believe.
I think there is some truth in that. I mean, the pages that we monitor in Hong Kong, they have tens of thousands of followers, and these people are sharing misinformation on a daily basis. And clearly they just share things that support their own agenda. So if they're pro-establishment, then they will find things to smear the protesters with. And even if something has been debunked by a fact checker or by a news organisation, they will continue to share it because that suits the agenda that they're pushing.
I mean, you say that there is this general level of disbelief. So what is it that journalists can do to try and ensure credibility and indeed factual reporting?
Well, do what they have been doing, but perhaps doubling their efforts to check facts, to publish things, to share things, or to repost things, to follow up things on the social media with more efforts. Maybe more checking bodies, the media themselves, and also a culture in the society that at least if you don't really believe it, don't share it. I think now people
that's difficult, isn't it? When things are so
people
polarized.
just don't care. People don't have that sense of responsibility.
I know that AFP doesn't just do this in Asia, you do it around the world. I mean, can you put this into context? How much activity which is occurring in Hong Kong, how does that compare with onslaughts of false fake news and all the rest of it in other parts of the world?
So within Asia, I would say Hong Kong is pretty high up in terms of the level of misinformation that we're seeing right now. But I would say that when we look at somewhere like India, the problem is much bigger. Surely, yeah, it's a huge population, but also there's just so many more pages that are pumping out this kind of propaganda, I would say, often pro-government. And you see posts being replicated across multiple accounts, which I would say is indicative of a kind of concerted effort to smear certain people in the society. I'm not sure Hong Kong has such a coordinated misinformation campaign. It's a little bit more coincidental. We don't see this problem quite so much in some parts of Europe. We also don't see it so much in places like Singapore, where you now have a very strict anti-fake news law. I think that is having an impact. The other side of that debate is whether it might be stifling free speech. I would say Hong Kong is up there in terms of the level of misinformation that we see right now.
And do you, in the case of Hong Kong, have any evidence of state-sponsored attempts at posting fake news?
That's difficult. I mean, we do monitor Weibo, and we see a lot of this misinformation being carried across into Weibo or even initiated on there. And I would guess that a lot of those accounts are being either monitored by state media, or at least they have some influence from state media, or we even see misinformation originating from someone like China Daily, and then it gets copied across. In Hong Kong, I would say much harder to know who is behind some of these accounts. They're normally written in traditional Chinese, and so there's no immediate sign that they're being hosted elsewhere. It's very difficult to get that kind of data from tech companies.
In Hong Kong, you increasingly find people who say, I don't want to have anything to do with the conventional media anymore. I don't trust it. I get all my information from social media. It's better, it's quicker, etc., etc. This is going to put journalists out of business, isn't it?
First, a lot of things now on social media also came from, the content themselves, from so-called mainstream media or traditional media. And yes, I think that there's a problem of trust and credibility for various reasons. I think the whole protest, the whole political environment in Hong Kong gives rise to a lot of problem of trust. Unless people no longer care about, truth, and they just want something they would like to see, fictions, drama, but not exactly what happened. I see pretty mixed messages coming out from this process. People do care about truth. people want to know what exactly happened, whether that rail accident is an accident or something, say, deliberately made, or what happened at the Prince Edward station. So as long as that say, sentiments, aspiration is still there, there's still room for, say, journalists. If, say, the government, the police keeps saying that there are fake news, fake reporters, fake press cards, it's not just, say, damage, say, the image and reputations of journalists, but people's trust in journalists. And the whole, say, fourth power, the whole function of, say, the media will be damaged. And that's why we keep asking police to give evidence, to do their own fact check before making those accusations.
Chris Young, Rachel Blu, thank you very much indeed. And that's it for us for this week. Don't forget, you can catch this episode again on RTHK's website. And if that's not enough, The Pulse is out there on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.